Students, please confirm that you can see me and hear me all right. Thank you. Please type yes. Thank you. Thank you. Hello friends. Please shut your eyes for a moment. चलिए. So, Akash, yes. Please tell us what we discussed in the last lecture.
So we discussed the Durkheim's division of labor.
Don't talk, guys, please. Yes, Durkheim's division of labor. Yeah, we continued with that. Yeah, tell me. Tell me what is collective conscience.
Sir, in collective conscience, the people together will have a certain set of background which affects their thoughts, and they have a similar kind of thoughts because of that.
Okay, pass it on. Can we do better? What is conscience collective?
Sir, basically it was the totality of beliefs like about a common man.
Okay. All right, or as represented in the common man. Okay. Pass it on. The formal definition of conscience collective.
Formal definition.
Yes, what we wrote.
The totality of beliefs and sentiments
Yes, very good.
of the society.
Okay, काम चलाओ. हाँ? ठीक है, but
To be common to the average citizen of
yes. Fine. Pass it on. What we discuss next?
Homogeneity and heterogeneity in pre-modern
All right, and postmodern. And modern society, not postmodern. It's a specific kind of society, postmodern, so we don't use that term loosely. ठीक है, what else?
society can consist from very complex
Yes. Yes, what else?
and then
Well, okay, fine, good enough. Pass it on. The nature of law.
like instruments today.
Okay, pass it on. Nature, law.
Nature of law is repressive in pre-modern society,
Yes,
restitutive in modern.
good. Pass it on. What do we mean by repressive and restitutive?
Repressive means when a person from certain community have committed something mischievous, then whole community will be punished.
The community will punish and severely. Okay?
Whole
So the idea is that to repress even the slightest of digressions from the accepted social norms. Huh? So it's not the whole community will be punished, the community will punish. Okay? Yeah. ठीक है, pass it on. So who started the first course in USA? Sociology. Yeah, quickly. Sumner, pass it on. Yeah. Coming back to the last lecture. Continue. Sorry? Please revise for your own sake, pass it on. Yes.
Sir, when we talk
What do you mean by organic solidarity?
Organic solidarity is basically the solidarity that we find in modern societies,
Hmm.
which is basically characterized by individualism.
Yes, absolutely. What is mechanical solidarity?
Sir, there is sameness in the individual.
Yes.
So the solids in the sameness. So
Which kind of society?
in the pre-modern society.
Yes.
So we discussed about anomy yesterday.
What is anomy?
Transfer of modern phase to pre-modern phase to modern phase.
Okay, that period is characterized by anomy, but what is anomy?
Anomy is normlessness.
Normlessness, pass it on. So people are exuberant irrationally during the phase of anomy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Pass it on. Is she correct? Pass it on. Are they correct? Sorry?
Yes, sir.
What was my question?
So basically, anomy causes normlessness.
The question was,
Exaggerating of
the question is whether the people are irrationally happy during the phase of anomy.
No, sir. It was like when the drastic change happened
Yes.
from pre-modern society to modern society.
G.
There is some drastic changes and unhappiness among the people.
Yes, it's a period of unhappiness, gloominess, huh? Anything but happiness, yeah? ठीक है, pass it on. Then, what else? What are the various forms of, various abnormal forms of division of labor?
Anomic division of labor.
Which means?
It is driven by grid.
Okay, pass it on. Next, abnormal form,
Forced division of labor.
which means?
For example, caste system, where one,
I'm not asking for example, I'm asking the meaning.
which means that one is forced to do some work irrespective of his or her will.
Yes, fine, good, pass it on. Third type, inadequate, which means?
Properly organized.
Yes, simple, pass it on. What are some solutions Durkheim offered to address these? Dekho nahi. Yes, from memory, yeah. He only studied the last class. Why not, bache? You're doing harm to your own preparation level, yeah. Huh? It will become tougher for you, if you are picking it up later. I know you are constrained on time. I know your hands are literally full with all these different demands of UPSC. Pass it on. Yes.
Establishment of
Professional type? Associations. Very good, very good. Pass it on. What else?
Progressive legislation.
Progressive legislation.
Contract.
Contract, absolutely. What are social facts?
Are collective ways of thinking, feeling, and acting that are external to the individual. That force the individual to comply.
Wonderful. Proud of you. Dil khush kar diya aapne. Yes. Give me some examples of social facts.
We have forced to wage vote and
Okay, that came out little odd. We are forced to wear a certain kind of clothes. Let's put it this way. Huh? Language, absolutely. Very good. Name some counter-enlightenment scholars. Some counter-enlightenment scholars. You have to make her feel super guilty that except her everybody knows. Huh? Please revise, beta. Pass it on. Name some positivists. Name some positivists. Guys, let him. Pass it on. Name some functionalists. Don't do this to yourselves, guys. These are the most basic kind of questions one can ask. Name some critical sociologists. Yes. Pass it on. Name anybody you know. What do I ask? Huh? Name an interpretive sociologist. Name a symbolic interactionist. Symbolic interactionist. Some symbolic interactionist scholar name. One of the 6 guys in our syllabus. That's a big hint. G.H. Mead is a symbolic interactionist. Okay? Name a functionalist. Good. It's like saving grace. Chalo, I think we are done. Doubts? Yes. Sorry, repeat the question. Okay, so why did Durkheim choose Arunta tribe and their religious practice of totemism to study? After all, he was not Arunta himself. So what prompted him, to choose this kind of oddball? So that is his question. Permit me to take up the questions of the online students first, and then we'll again come back to the class students, because that's a kind of thing we have. Any doubts, online students? Please ask. And do bring that question up again, okay? Any doubts, any of the online students, please ask. I'm being asked the meaning of top-down theory. I don't know what is the context of the question, so I'm unable to kind of make much sense. That? Sorry? I'll have to read that portion and then I can comment. Can we say homogeneous and heterogeneous depend on context and change with context? Of course, yeah. Of course. What is the difference between social norms and social facts? Social norms are a relatively more specific term, which means that any kind of guidelines offered by the society to the individual, to kind of which shape his conduct, that is social norms. Social facts is a broader term, which social norms are also social facts. So social facts are anything that the society kind of makes us do or makes us follow. Social norms are social facts. Social institutions are also social facts. So social facts are, the very subject matter of the discipline, and in that sense, all things social, okay, very bluntly put, are social facts. Yeah? How to retain? A very brief, to the point question, how to retain? And the most important, I would say there are no shortcuts. It is multiple revisions. Not revision, not once, multiple revisions. Okay, that is all it takes. Explain social facts. We will be discussing at greater length today. How religion is used to justify the privilege of the privileged sections. That is being asked. Anybody would like to take that up? I can take up questions from here and throw here. So I won't have to ask like to counter enlightenment scholars. I'll have new questions. So tell me. Yes, please take that up. Yeah. I repeat the question for those who didn't hear. How does religion justify the privilege of the privileged sections of the society? Yes.
The privileged people, they say that God has given them that right to rule over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is why you say through much of, that is why you see that through much of human history, the state, the rulers, the monarchy, they have been literally hands in glove with the religious authority, the church, including in our country, right? So the kings would get the Brahmins to conduct the Havans, the Ashwamedha Yagya and this and that, which would legitimize their position. Religion would also kind of give some theological explanation of why the rich are rich and the poor are poor, which will kind of rationalize or explain away disprivilege and privilege. So it is your bad prior karma, which is a result of your lowly position today. Yeah? Difference between anomic division of labor and inadequate organization. Anomic division of labor means that the rules are not clear. The society is not capping the desires of the individuals when it comes to their economic behavior. That is anomic division of labor. Inadequate organization means work is not being properly organized or divided. So people's roles and responsibilities are not clear, because of which is leading to inefficiency. Can the coaching material substitute class notes? No. Let your class notes be the base of your base material for your preparation. Functionalists like Durkheim write extremely positive, and Marxists write extremely negative. Is there anyone who writes neutral? Weber tries to be that nice guy, that reasonable fellow. What is collective conscience? We just discussed, I think. Okay, they wouldn't have heard. What is collective conscience? Proper definition. The norms, the sentiments that are common to the average citizens of a society. Okay? How the average guy thinks, how we defined it casually. Can we refer to Sangwan on the weekend? Now that's up to you how you manage your time. If you are a full-time aspirant, my suggestion would be that on a daily basis, along with the class lectures or along with topics, say if you are completing a social facts today, instead of the last lecture, then you will see the whole of social facts from the reference book, which is Sangwan, immediately after, instead of leaving it till for the weekend. Why in Anomy there is unhappiness when we are moving from pre-modern to modern? Why are we unhappy, guys? Because we are confused, because we feel worthless, because we feel what we do doesn't matter, because we have unlimited desires which remain forever unfulfilled, because we are torn between competing demands from different social norms and groups. Yes. So what else will one do? We will remain unhappy. Chaliye. Yes, now let us begin with the questions here. Beginning with yours again, please restate that. Why Durkheim chooses Arunta tribe for his study of religion and not, say, his own community, which was the Jews, Jewish community, or Christianity, which was the predominant religion in Europe that time. Durkheim very consciously chooses Arunta tribe and not any of the major religions. Reason being, he believed that it is a simple society. Therefore, their religious philosophy, ideas and rituals, practices, everything would be quite simple, and that would make it easier to study than picking up a complex, multi kind of headed kind of a major world religion like Christianity or even Judaism. Okay? Given the simple social organization of the Arunta people, given that their religious beliefs and practices were quite basic and simple, rudimentary in that sense, he preferred the Arunta society. What else here? Yes.
Yesterday we studied interdependence in case of pre-modern society is low. Is it with respect to emotions or things?
Interdependence meaning in various aspects that people depend less on others. Okay? Primarily in the sense for the fulfillment of one's various needs, most of it looking at it in material terms. Okay? Less for the emotional aspects, but more in terms of the material needs of man.
So in this case, will we neglect emotions or consider it a little part or not?
I am not too sure, very honestly. I don't have a very sure kind of an answer on that. So you'll have to pardon that. Yes. Yes? You raised your hand in the corner? Okay. Yeah, you? Yeah?
Sir, according to Durkheim, the essence of religion in modern society is the same as the essence of religion in
Haven't we discussed this at some length? She's picked up a question from one of the previous years, verbatim, that according to Durkheim, the essence of religion in modern society is the same as the essence of religion in primitive society. So how is that? Have we discussed this or no? What is the answer? Tell me. Anyone raise your hand and speak. Yes. Okay. Because we did discuss Durkheim's views on religion in modern society. When we discussed that Durkheim disagrees with the secularization hypothesis, that religion has been sidelined in modern society. He says it continues to exist and thrive in modern society, but in a changed form. So civic religion. So even in modern societies, the society every society divides everything into the two categories of sacred and profane. So there are things which are regarded as sacred even in modern society, and that is the essence of religion. According to Durkheim, it is a unified system of beliefs and practices related to sacred things, that is, things set apart and forbidden. So like there is a division of the world into sacred and profane in pre-modern society, similarly in case of modern society, that division exists. Like in case of pre-modern society, religion provides a shared morality, so it does in case of the modern society. Like in pre-modern society, there are rituals which produce collective effervescence. Therefore, similarly you have also in modern society. Like religion serves as a unifying force or as an adhesive binding the people together in pre-modern society, so does it do even in modern times. So that thing will be. One could definitely argue that. Can one say, so when Durkheim says that God is society divinized, in fact in modern times it is even more evident. What do we worship? We worship Bharat Mata. What is Bharat? We are Bharat. It is we, the people of India. Right? So we are literally, it is so evident. In pre-modern societies it is slightly seems indirect. But in modern society we are literally saying we worship the country, the nation, the people. Yeah? What else? Yes?
Sir, can we say that in NOV, society is searching for a new own culture? Like, for example, society is transitioning from pre-modern to modern.
Yes.
There is heterogeneous diversity in the society. People coming from different social backgrounds have different cultures.
Absolutely.
Those different way of life are getting conflicted in the social life.
Yes.
So people are unhappy because there is conflict.
Absolutely. Very beautifully expressed, and I'm in complete agreement with that kind of analysis, what he just said. Absolutely correct, beta. Chaliye. Moving ahead with our study of social facts. So Durkheim considers that the social facts are what constitute the subject matter of sociology. We also discussed what social facts mean. They are the collective ways of acting, feeling and thinking, external to the individual and endowed with the power of coercion by reason of which they control him. Yeah. In simple terms, they are everything that we do or think which the society has imposed on us, which control the actions of the individual. Yeah. And we discussed various examples. Religion and language and custom, everything. These are all social facts. Now moving on to characteristics of social facts. Characteristics of social facts. The first characteristic that we discuss is externality. Externality. इधर से वॉल्यूम इंक्रीज कर आती है थोड़ा सा. Externality. Externality means what simply? That the social facts are outside of the individual, external to the individual. Yes or no? It is quite self-evident. We had in fact discussed it while discussing the definition in the last lecture. Yeah? So, say the language that we speak, it exists outside of us. Yes or no? The deities that we worship, they are outside of us. Everything. Whatever belongs or is imposed on us by the society, it is external. You tell me, is it, say language, say rituals, thank you. Do they also exist inside of us? Or no? Of course they do. So we have internalized. They are external, but we also have internalized them. So घूंट के मैंने हिंदी पी ली ना, तभी तो निकल रही है अंदर से. हाँ? In other words, we do internalize the social facts and then we abide by them or follow them. Huh? But they are external to us. So they exist in the outside, though we do internalize them. Right? Please write down. Externality. Dash. According to Durkheim, every individual is born into an existing society. Every individual is born into an existing society with a definite organization. There are various social norms and values he finds ready-made at birth and learns through how? Socialization. Learns through socialization. Full stop. These exist prior to the individual and are external to him. And are external to him. Full stop. Clear? Second characteristic feature is, independence. Independence. When we say that social facts are independent, what do we mean? Independent of whom? Yes. Independent in two senses. In two ways, social facts are independent. One way is they are independent of the will of the individual members of the society. They are independent of the will of the individual So it's not about whether I want or like those social facts or not. Yes or no? Whether I like them or not, they exist. I can't say I don't like Hindi or I don't like Hinduism. It is the society in which I am born. And those social facts will continue to exist irrespective of whether I like them or dislike them. I meaning the individual. Right? Can I say I don't want to talk in Hindi or English? I don't like these two languages? No. I will speak in these two languages only. Because these are social facts which exist independent of my will. They are not of my choosing. Okay? Social facts are also independent in another sense. they are independent of its individual manifestations. Social facts are independent of its individual manifestations. Social facts are independent of its individual manifestations. Say language. Now I am a particular language speaker. I am a Hindi speaker. So I am an individual manifestation of the social fact of Hindi. Yes or no? Now, today I am here, tomorrow I will die. Will the social fact of Hindi die with me? No. It will continue to exist forever. So that is what we mean. It is independent of its individual manifestations. I am one manifestation, one instance, one example of Hindi speaking. Yes or no? So Hindi is being reflected through me, being spoken by me. Yes or no? But Hindi is not dependent on me for its existence. My existence will end, but the existence of the social fact will continue. Are you with me? You are another Hindi speaker. You will also pass away one day, but the social fact of Hindi will continue. We are all individual manifestations, and the social fact continues to exist independent of these individual manifestations. Clear? Thirdly, social facts are constraining in character. They constrain the individual. Constraint matlab? They restrict the choices of the individual. Individual does not have a free hand. The social facts impose themselves on the individual. So social facts have that compelling power. They can exert themselves on the individual. So social facts can extract compliance in that sense. Alright? And if the individual refuses to comply, then what? If the individual doesn't comply with the social facts, doesn't adhere or conform to the social facts, then what? Then social control mechanisms will be applied. Social facts can extract compliance from the individual. If the individual tries to resist social facts, if the individual tries to resist social facts, they assert themselves. They assert themselves. They who? Social facts. They assert themselves through social control mechanisms. What are social control mechanisms? क्या कर सकते हो आप लोग खिल्ली उड़ाओगे? Ridicule, mocking, boycott, application of law, punishment, etc. All right? Fourthly, generality. Generality or social facts are generalized in character, we say. Social facts are generalized in character. Generalized in what sense? Who follows them? Do I follow them? Only I? All the members of the society in general, they follow. So they are generally spread out throughout the society. They are not confined to a few persons or an individual. Are you with me? Social facts are generalized or spread out throughout the society, not confined to an individual or few persons. We have discussed examples of social facts already. Language, law, religion, form of marriage, customs, all these things are social facts. Social facts. Durkheim talks about them in his book, Rules of the Sociological Method. Rules of Sociological Method. He discusses how to study social facts. Rules of Sociological Method. In this book, he basically lays down his methodology for the discipline of sociology, meaning how to study social facts. Social facts. Social facts can be classified into how many types? Two. Mostly things are two. Two types. One is material social facts, and the other is, help me here, absolutely wonderful, non-material social facts. Thank you. Material and non-material social facts. Material social facts are those which are directly observable. Non-material social facts are those which are, yes, help me here, not directly observable. Absolutely, which are not directly observable. So they are not externalized or materialized. Let us give examples of both. For example, material social facts could include things like technology, architecture styles, laws. These are material social facts. Non-material social facts, norms and values, such kind of things. The conscience collective, these are non-material social facts. In his book, Rules of the Sociological Method, Durkheim has outlined the methodology of the discipline of sociology. So, as a founding father, please appreciate Durkheim's contribution has been twofold, very importantly. One is delineating the subject matter of the new discipline, what we have to study, and what do we have to study? Social facts. So, giving the subject its distinctive identity, its own subject matter, alright? Secondly, also laying down the methodology of the discipline, how the subject matter is to be approached or studied, right? So the how part we will be discussing now. We'll now be talking about basically how to study social facts. or what is the methodology of the discipline of sociology. For this, he lays down certain rules. The name of the book is Rules of the First is, he discusses the rules for observation. Rules for observation of social facts. And the first rule, friends, is that you consider social facts as things, or treat social facts as things. Please write it like this. The first and foremost rule is, right, this is what I'm saying. The first and foremost rule is that treat social facts as things. When we say you treat them like things, what do we mean? That they are real. That the approach of the sociologist to his subject matter, to social facts, has to be exactly the same as the approach of the physicist to his subject matter. The approach of the sociologist to his subject matter should be the same as the physical sciences treat their subject matter. Meaning what? It is directly observable. It can be measured. Likho. It can be measured. Empirical data about the social facts should be collected. And then it can be processed. It can be processed using statistical techniques. It can be processed using statistical techniques. Social facts are observable. They can be measured, quantified, captured as empirical data. And then that data be processed using statistical tools and techniques. Social facts are real. Social facts are real. No, this point only. I'm just explaining. They are an objective reality. They are an objective reality. Full stop. As things, in quotes, single quotes. The word things in single quotes. As things, comma, social facts have to be studied by the empirical method, not based on intuition or feelings, emotions, etc. Okay. Another rule of observation, for observation, is clear definition. Clear definition. Please write. The sociologist must clearly define and delineate the phenomena being studied. The sociologist must clearly define and delineate the phenomena being studied. You know, friends, Durkheim not only gave these rules for the study of social facts, but he also showed its implementation, its actual use in his study of suicide. So he treated suicide as, Arey bhaiya, they are social facts, as things. Collected empirical data, processed it to arrive at a kind of whatever his conclusions were. And he, of course, began with a clear definition of what suicide is. Only in sciences you need clarity of definitions so that you know what we are talking about. And then you pick up data accordingly, right? So you need clear definition. Another important rule for observation is that you discard your preconceived notions. Please write. The sociologist must discard any preconceived notions that dominate the minds of ordinary men and adopt an emotionally neutral attitude while studying what? Social facts. What is Durkheim saying in one word? If you have to give me one word for what he just said. Objectivity. Right? So you are now sociologists, you are not ordinary people. So you must proceed on the basis of data. Not let your own biases, any common sense thinking, prejudices affect. Are you with me? So clearly define the phenomena. So all the time Durkheim does that. He gave a very clear definition of this is religion or this is suicide and so on. And then proceed on that basis. Keeping one's own emotions, experiences aside while undertaking the study of social facts. Next, he gives the rule for distinguishing between normal and pathological social facts. Rules for distinguishing between normal and pathological social facts. What do you mean by normal and pathological? Please appreciate. Give the subheading rules for distinguishing between normal and pathological social facts. Let us try to appreciate what we mean by normal social facts and pathological social facts. Normal social facts, friends, mean what? Those which exist in a given society typically. Please write down. Normal social facts. A social fact is normal when it is generally encountered in a society. When it is generally encountered in a society. What is pathological? Any deviation from the standard is pathological. Is pathological. Pathology means a diseased state, friends. Not an abnormal kind of a state, right? For example, tell me, friends, is crime normal or pathological? Crime, is it normal or pathological? Durkheim writes, a certain degree of crime is normal. A certain degree of crime is normal. Why is it normal? Because a certain degree of crime always exists in every society. No society can be completely crime-free. Are you with me? Not only is it normal, it is also functional for the society. A certain degree of crime is normal and functional for the society. That sounds odd. How can crime be functional? Because crime is, after all, breaking of the rules of the society. Very roughly put. When you are breaking the laws, that is crime. How can that be functional? That too from the words of a functionalist scholar. It is, after all, following the rules which enables cooperative living. Then how does a crime be functional? Yes, absolutely. Yes? Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So when a crime is committed, friends, and punishment is meted out, it leads to what? It reinforces the collective sentiments of the people. It sends a message to all others that such and such thing is wrong and unacceptable to the society. That it will have consequences. Are you with me? And this deters others, prevents others from also committing a crime. So, a certain degree of crime is normal and functional for the society. But a very high crime rate is pathological. A very high crime rate is pathological. Understood? Tell me, friends, in our society, dowry is normal or pathological? And bride burning for dowry, that is pathological. Talking like justifying the existing arrangements. तो दहेज सही है, बहू जलाना सही नहीं है. That's what our parents would also tell us. We will not burn the bride, we will only seek to maximize the return on our investment, which is you. Okay? So, we need to distinguish between normal and pathological social facts. Then, Durkheim writes about the rules for classification of social facts. rules for classification. Please appreciate, friends. Durkheim is what in terms of his methodology? One word? Methodology. In terms of his methodology, he is what? He is a positivist. Positivist. He champions the application of the scientific method. Whatever we are talking, we are discussing the scientific method. What is the core of the scientific method as used by the physical sciences? One word if you have to explain the scientific method. Experimentation. And experimentation, does it have very wide application in sociological research? No, because we are dealing with humans and stuff like that. Since we cannot do much of experimentation, what do? Job chhod do? As a sociologist, what do we do? Because experimentation has limited application, what do we do? How do we proceed with the scientific method? Through classification. Things are already happening in society. Durkheim didn't make people do suicide. Didn't conduct experiments on suicide. But suicides were taking place. So you collect data on suicide and you apply the method of classification. So he classified suicide into appropriate categories, processed it, and gave you a badhiya theory. Likho. Since the scientific method of experimentation has dash application in sociological research, you will fill in the blank. Limited or wide? Limited. Has limited application in sociological research. Since the scientific method of experimentation has limited application in sociological research, sociologists may rely upon other scientific methods such as the comparative method, while studying the society, same sentence, while studying the society, in order to establish cause-effect relationships. Full stop. For comparison, sociologists must do classification of the social phenomena into appropriate categories. What do you mean that classification has to be in appropriate categories? And then only you can compare. Simply, friends, what do you compare? You compare apples with oranges or apples with apples? Apples with, in other words, you compare comparables. So when you are classifying, your classification has to be on a sound or reasonable basis. For example, I have suicide data. Let us assume we are Durkheim. We are doing that classification and comparison. So, can I do this? I can maybe, I have like data of suicide from different countries and I have all the characteristics, their gender and, place of living, urban or rural, religion and so on. Can I then compare, say, the suicide rate of men with the suicide rate in rural areas? Is that an appropriate comparison? Then what should I compare? Suicide rate of men with suicide rate of women, and suicide rate in rural areas with suicide rate in urban areas. Are you getting it? It's very obvious, but that is how it is. Okay? Next. Rules for explanation of social facts. So this is how Durkheim did, he classified into appropriate categories. So rural, urban, based on religion, Protestant and Catholic and Jewish and blah blah, based on say, I'm explaining this prior one only, then I'll come to the next one, explanation. He classified into say, with the number of children, suicide rate of people with 0 children, 1 child, 2 children, 3 children, like that. Married and bachelors, okay, like that. Who have higher suicide rate, men or women? What's your guess? Are we sure? Yes. You're right, absolutely right. Men have a far higher suicide rate than women. Chaliye, coming to the rules for explanation of social facts. Now, how do we? One rule, of course, that he gives is, do not, he didn't use the word teleology, okay, that we have written in shorthand. Do not confuse functions with causes. Very good. Dil khush kar dita. Do not confuse functions with causes. The causative factors, please write the causative factors. Yeah, in this only. The causative factors of a social phenomena. Are different from the functions which it performs. All right? Another rule that he gives, trace social facts to, not with, trace social facts to other social facts. Trace social facts to other social facts. Very important rule. In fact, this and the first one, that you treat social facts as things, and this one, you trace social facts to other social facts. These are the most important of all the rules in some manner. Okay? What do you mean? See, what he is saying is that you cannot understand or explain a social phenomena or a social fact with recourse to, say nature or biology or psychology. A social phenomena can be explained only in terms of other social phenomena. Let me give you a concrete example. He conducted a study of suicide. Suicide is a social fact. There is a very common tendency, even till today, to explain suicide in terms of the psychological state of the individual. Yes? But Durkheim insisted that suicide being a social phenomena, why it is a social phenomena we'll study when we discuss suicide. First he proved it is a social phenomena. Then he said since it is a social phenomena, it cannot be explained in terms of the state of the individual psyche. It has to be traced to other social facts. And in his study, he found that the rate of suicide depends on the rate of social integration and the rate of moral regulation which is prevalent in a society. What these are, we'll study. But these are social facts or social phenomena. Are you with me? Simply, I reiterate, it means that you cannot explain social facts with recourse to appeals to nature, biology or psychology, but with reference to only other social facts or other social phenomena. Likho. According to Sri Durkheim, social facts cannot be explained by reducing them to any underlying biological or psychological factors. Full stop. Social facts can be explained only with reference to other social facts. Full stop. In other words, the explanation of any social phenomena has to be found in the nature of what? The society itself. Nature of the society itself. So you focus on whatever your clearly defined problem statement is, na? Okay. So that is his methodology, outlined in which book? Rules of Sociological Method. ठीक है? चलिए. Is COVID back or something? No? भगवान ना करे. चलिए. So that is about, so we are done with 3 topics of Durkheim, and now I give you a choice. No break. Break I'll give you. Or should I give you a break first? I'll give you a break after the choice. Okay? It's a fake choice. In this sense, I already have made up my mind. If you choose what I have in my mind, I will say, okay, we'll do this. Otherwise, no. You have 2 options. You want to do suicide, or you want to discuss answer writing. Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, after a break, we'll discuss answer writing. friends, please confirm you can hear me. Online friends, please type yes. Welcome back. May I have your attention, please? Bhaiyo and Behno, please. We are having a veritable party here. Chaliye. Now discussing answer writing. So we leave suicide topic for later. Okay? We now discuss answer writing and at some length. How many of you have any questions in your mind regarding answer writing? How many of you have questions in your mind regarding answer writing? Please raise your hands so that I can see, like, raise your hands fully. Yeah. All right. So several amongst you have questions in your mind. Let us try to address them. Before I take up your questions, I have a lot of agenda on my plate regarding answer writing specifically. So let me have my say. Then if any questions remain, you are of course free to ask. All right? Regarding answer writing, just hold on for a second. So, friends, the first thing, please stop the chit chat beta. First thing that I want you to appreciate is the structure of the paper. How the paper is structured. Please open a sample question paper. It's there in your Telegram, this thing, group. The 2021 question paper, I want you to see that. Do you see that? Open it. That doesn't happen. I'll explain also in case you don't have it. So wait, I'll tell you. There are two sections in the paper. Section A and Section B. Each of these two sections has 4 questions. Total 8 questions are there. 4 questions in Section A, 4 questions in Section B. Question number 1, 2, 3, 4 in Section A. Question number 5, 6, 7, 8 in Section B. So there are 8 questions, out of which you have to attempt any 5 questions. Out of 8, you have to attempt 5 questions. How you have to attempt 5 questions? Question number 1 and question number 5 are compulsory. They are compulsory. Out of the other 6 questions, question numbers 2, 3, 4, 6, 7 and 8, you have to do any 3 questions in such a manner that you are doing at least 1 question from each section. Are you with me? So you can't have the other 3 all from 1 section. It cannot be 1, 2, 3, 4 and then 5. Or it cannot be 1, 5 and 6, 7, 8. You have to take 1 and 5 compulsorily, and out of the 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 3 questions, so that at least 1 question from each section. Okay? Simply. Each of these questions that you attempt is for 50 marks. 50. Each of these questions is for 50 marks. You are attempting 5 questions. So total you are attempting for 250 marks. Simply friends, wait, you have, wait. You have section A and section B. Question number 1, 2, 3 and 4. Question number 5, 6, 7 and 8. Each of these questions is for 50 marks. Your total paper, please bear with me, is for 250 marks. So you have to attempt 5 questions. This is compulsory. This is compulsory. There's no choice there. Okay? Out of the remaining 6 questions, you have to pick up any 3. All 3 cannot be from the same section. So it cannot be 2, 3, 4. It cannot be 6, 7, 8. Those 3, you have to pick up 1 from each section, 1 from one section and 2 from another section. Simply. Clear? Okay or no? Yes. Question number 1 and question number 5, they have 5 parts. A, B, C, D, E. Typically they are written like, write a short note from a sociological perspective on the following in 150 words. That is the heading, and then you have A, B, C, D, E. 10 marker, 5 questions of 10 marks, 5 subparts, okay, of 10 marks each. Same with question number 5. Clear? In question number 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, there are 3 parts each. In each question, there are 3 parts. So 2A is for 20 marks, 2B is for 20 marks, and 2C is for 10 marks. All these questions are of this type, 20, 20, 10. Is it clear? You have to attempt total 5 questions of 50 marks each, the total paper being for 250 marks. And you have 2 papers. Paper 1 is like this, paper 2 is also like this. Okay? That is the paper structure. Also appreciate the paper structure that is being discussed, that is not a commitment of the UPSC. It is only the pattern which is being followed since several years. In other words, in case the next year UPSC decides to change the pattern, it does not legally bound to follow the same pattern. So please, how will you know if the pattern is changed? Read the instructions carefully and follow them. Okay? But this is the trend since several years. Okay? Now, total you are attempting 5 questions of 50 marks each. In these 5 questions, you are attempting how many 10 markers? 5 from question number 1, another 5 from question number 5, and another 3 from the 3 questions you will be attempting. So total 5 plus 5 plus 3. You have to attempt 13 questions for 10 marks each. Is equal to 130 marks are for 10 markers. 13 questions of 10 marks each you will be attempting. 20 markers, how many? 6. In 3 to 2 parts each. So 6 questions of 20 marks each for 120 marks. And 13 questions of 10 marks each, total for 130 marks. Total for 250 marks you have to attempt. Clear? And the time you get is 3 hours or 180 minutes. So, how much time do you get to write one question, one 10 marker? Simply 180 minutes divide by how many? 25. Because 250 marks you get 180 minutes. For 10 marks you get 180 by 25, which is how much? 7.2 marks. Sorry, 7.2 minutes per 10 marks. Clear? So you have to attempt a 10 marker if you look at it this way. 10 marker you get 7.2 minutes. Don't talk, yeah. Okay? How many of you attempted the previous assignment? Raise your hands. How much time did it take you on an average to attempt a question? For one question, how much time did you take? Quantify, tell me roughly around, 20 minutes, 30, whatever it took you. Raise your hands. How many of you took, say, less than 10 minutes? Per question. Per question, less than 10 minutes. Great. How many of you took, say, 15 to 20 minutes per question? Between 15 to 20 minutes, a very substantial number of you. How many of you took, say, more than 20 minutes per question? 10 marker question. Please raise your hands. It's perfectly okay. Okay? Right. How many of you took between 10 to 15 minutes? Fair number. ठीक है. So whatever it is taking you, 15, 20, 25 minutes per question, you have to bring it down to about 7.2 for a 10 marker. Okay? So one thing which is of crucial importance is two things, speed and time management. You need much greater speed than what you currently are, and also proper time management. How do you use your time in the examination hall? Okay. One way to look at it is this. How do I rub this thing which is on the screen, this red? One sec, it will be done, I'm sure. It's getting done, guys. Yes. We start afresh. So one way of looking at it, how you use your time, and this is one of the most important things in the examination hall, friends. Don't take it lightly. It doesn't come naturally to the best of us. It needs a lot of practice and a lot of conscious effort in this direction. For speed and time management, you are doing 13 questions. One way of looking at it, if you want to look at it per question, 13 questions, you devote about 8 minutes, 13 questions, these are the 10 markers. So you devote about 8 minutes per question, a total of 104 minutes will go into the 10 markers. The 20 markers, the 6 questions you are doing, please appreciate a 20 marker does not take exactly double the time a 10 marker does. Are you with me? Because, the thinking part and the structuring part, the content development, all that is common. And once you have, then in flow you write. So, roughly you can write a 20 marker in about 12 minutes. Which will take you total 72 odd minutes. Hello. So this is how much? 176. You are left with 4 good minutes. You do miscellaneous stuff in that. It's a 180 minutes exam. You will write your name and roll number and blah. You will check the answer sheet for that there are no missing pages. Okay. Another thing and all those things you will be doing. You will be selecting the questions that you will be writing. All of that takes time. So 4 minutes are for that. Okay. This is one way of looking at how you manage your time. Also, I want to mention before I forget, you get 2 things in the examination hall. One is the question paper. It will be about 2-3 pages where the questions will be printed in sequence. You also, and the main thing you get is a question cum answer booklet. It is in that question cum answer booklet that you submit to the UPSC. Okay? So it's a thick booklet and you write your answers in that and you submit it to the authority. Question cum answer booklet in the sense, it will have instructions on the first page and so on. Then inside, it will have section A, question number 1A, and the question will be printed there. Then there will be blank space beneath it where you will be writing your answers. Say 2 pages you get for a 10 marker, 4 pages for a 20 marker. Okay? So after 2 pages, after the question 1 will be written, say emergence of modernity emerged first and only in Europe, comment. Then you'll have blank space beneath it for 2 pages to write. Then the question 1B will be printed, and below space and so on. Okay. So of course there will be space printed beneath or available beneath all 8 questions, but you will be utilizing only beneath 5. Clear? The other 3 questions you will of course be leaving blank in the question come answer booklet, and it is this booklet that you submit to the UPSC. The question paper you bring home with yourself. Okay? So you get that booklet, the pages are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 12, 30, 40. So you have to count that there is no missing page, because if you write like half the booklet and then you realize, oh, it has less pages. Okay, so you'll of course check the first thing you do, and everything that you do, that is within the 3 hours. You don't get a minute more. Consider it that. In fact, a bad invigilator can eat into your time. Simply. Okay, there may be mismanagement at the center. It's typically a government school where you will be doing. Okay, there can be some sort of mismanagement or laxity, any sort of delay. So but you don't get beyond 3 hours. So everything you have to do within 3 hours. So during your weekly assignments that you are submitting, any sort of answer writing practice you are doing, you have to bring it down from whatever time you are taking right now, 20 minutes, 25 minutes or 15 minutes, to about 8 minutes per question for the 10 marker. Okay? That has to be our target. How you do that? Firstly, don't get disheartened whatever time it is taking you. You are only starting off, and nobody, I don't know how to put it in English, but koi bhi pet se seekh ke nahi aata hai. Okay? None of us kind of are born with that skill. We acquire that skill and speed through the process that you will be undergoing. So what I suggest, and deliberately in the first assignment I did not share this inputs with you that you have to write in 8 minutes, because if you take 20 minutes you will be very disheartened. Right? Now that you have written freehand without any instructions, I want to share this with you. Our target is 8 minutes. If we are currently at 20 minutes, say, don't try to do it the next assignment in 8 minutes. It will not happen and it will demotivate you. Instead, you take gradual steps towards the 8-minute target. So if you are currently taking 20 minutes, for the next assignment, give yourself 17 minutes. If you can write something in 20 minutes, you can also write it in 17 minutes. Are you with me? And how do you give yourself 17 minutes? With a timer. Keep an alarm or a timer with you. Okay? In that timer, say you have to now attempt, I'm assuming a person took 20 and they have to come to 17. So for 17, you put 2 alarms, I will suggest. Let the alarm beep at first as say 14 or 15 minutes, and then again after 2-3 minutes. So the 14-15 minute alarm will tell you now you have to hurry up and kind of conclude your answer. And in the next 2-3 minutes you conclude. Are you with me? And then after 17 minutes you simply put down your pen. You do it for a few answers, then you will get comfortable at 17 minutes. Once you've achieved the 17 minutes, then you bring it down further to 13-14 minutes. Okay? In the next step, you bring it down to 11 minutes. And thereafter it gets tough. So if your target is 11 minutes, you again put 2 timers, 9 minutes, then again after 2 minutes, the alarm will conk off. Okay? From 11, you bring it down to 9 and then to 8. Okay? If you do not have discipline, if you think, yeah, let me, first focus on the quality and then I will work on the time, start working on the time front from now on. It is important and extremely important. You cannot leave it for later, particularly you cannot leave it for after the prelims. Right? And even if you are doing this, it will take you several weeks to come to the requisite speed of 8 minutes for a 10 marker. Okay? But keep that target always in mind that I have to write a 10 marker in 8 minutes, eventually. Secondly, friends, this will happen through the weekly assignment writing. Secondly, please appreciate, and if some of you are feeling that is not enough, write anything on a daily basis, but targeted and timed. Simply, you can pick up the daily newspaper and summarize the editorial that you read. Give yourself a self-chosen kind of a time limit, that I'll write about this much, or I'll summarize the article or write it in my own words, whatever I've read, in about, say, 150 words. This 10 markers you have to attempt in 150 words, 150. Okay? So try to summarize any topic you've read, say, President of India, okay, what are his powers, veto powers, write on that, 150 words. Or whatever you've read from the newspaper, some editorial, summarize it in 150 words. And the target that you currently have. So if you were at 20, try to write in 17 or 15 and so on. Okay? Focus on achieving this target of about 8 minutes for a 10 marker. That is one part. Please appreciate the weekly assignments you are writing 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. Okay? And questions from topics which you have just studied in the previous week. A full length test of 3 hours and 250 marks is a very different ball game. Very different ball game, a very different challenge. Why? It comes from the whole of the syllabus. And 3 hours is a much longer time duration to write for. So you need stamina literally. You need, stamina, you will be jumping from one topic to another. So it is far more challenging in that sense. In the examination hall, how you can structure your time, please appreciate. You have to attempt for 250 marks in 180 minutes. 180 minutes or 3 hours means there are 6 slots of half an hour. 6 into 30 is 180 minutes, right? Now in the actual exam, you do not time your every question because you lose attention. You continuously so instead of looking at every question, you have a half-hour target. That in every half an hour, I have to achieve this much. How much? 250 marks. Divide by 6. How much? Whatever that is, 6 into 40 is 240, simply. So if I write for 40 marks in every half an hour, in 6 half hours, I will be writing for 240 marks. In the last half an hour, I can, of course, stretch it to 50 marks. Okay? So, in every 30 minutes, you have to attempt for 40 marks. Keep that as a target in a 3-hour paper. Online friends, you're asking several questions. Please hold your questions. Let me have my say. I'll open the floor for discussion and questions once I'm done. Several of your questions will possibly be answered during the discussion. So you may not need to ask. But I'll take the questions after I'm done discussing what I have on agenda. Okay? Where was I? So in every half an hour, you write for 40 marks worth. Okay? Very importantly, which half an hour becomes most crucial is the first half an hour. The first half an hour. The typical student mindset is that my first few answers should be mind-blowing awesome. Not just good. They need to be mind-blowing awesome so that I can leave a very awesome impression on the examiner and then he'll shower me with marks. है ना, उसका दिल खुश कर दूं मैं, कुछ ऐसे initial answers लिख दूं. Don't do that. Why? Because if you do that, you end up attempting for only about 25 odd marks in the first half hour, which puts a drag on your, big strain on your, subsequent writing throughout the next 2.5 hours. So, most important, and please write this down, lest you forget, that attempt for 40 marks in the first half an hour. Attempt for 40 marks in the first half an hour of the exam. If you do that, if you are able to do that, friends, then the rest of the 2.5 hours will be far more comfortable. And you will be able to do justice to the whole of the paper and not only a few questions. Okay? Now, in the first half an hour, to write for 40 marks, you can do two things. Either you attempt 4 10 markers or you attempt 2 20 markers. With the 10 markers, the thing is there is no thinking required. There are compulsory. So you simply pick up question number 1 and start writing. Okay, but it is far tougher usually to write 4 10 markers than 2 20 markers in half an hour. 2 20 markers do not take, we allotted about 12 odd minutes. You take 13 minutes per 20 marker. 26, 27 minutes. You should be able to attempt the 2 20 markers. And then the 3-4 minutes for selection and blah blah. Selection will take some time, which questions you have to attempt, which you have to leave out. Right? So, if it is very obvious which questions you have to leave out. So, there's some part 20 marker in one of them where you clearly haven't heard of the term. So, that's a complete no-go. So, you are left with these choices, and this one you definitely know very well. You begin with that. Okay? So, if in the first half an hour you can write 2 20 markers, select and write 2 20 markers, you are in a good place. Writing 4 10 markers in the first half hour becomes very challenging. Okay? $40 into 6 is how much? 240. Then what do you do? 10 marks you leave? No. You attempt for 50 marks in the last half hour, effectively. Other half hours you attempt for. By the last half an hour, you are already on fire. Literally. So you will already have picked up speed. So if you can achieve this kind of a time distribution during those 3 hours, you will be able to do decent justice to the paper. Don't cross talk, yeah. For God's sake. The second thing, are we done with the time management and the speed? And I cannot underline the importance of speed, friends. I cannot overemphasize the importance of speed. See, one question or dilemma that students face, if I write faster, I can. But the quality will be that much poorer. It will be affected. And with full sense of responsibility, I say that even at the cost of quality, to some extent, please ensure that you are completing the full paper. So speed is far more important, even if accompanied by a slight drop in quality. Okay? You can't have few answers which are extraordinary quality, but then you are leaving out 30 marks worth of paper. You can't have that. Now, one thing students are concerned about is the type of questions that are asked. So there are different keywords or trigger words in a question. You would have come across many even in the weekly assignment. So what do different types of words mean, or what do different kind of questions expect from you? Let us try to appreciate. One kind of words you can have are these. When it says explain, elaborate, elucidate, or justify. And these keywords that we are discussing, friends, they completely can change the demand of the question. You know, these kind of keywords mean what? You have to take the statement preceding these words as a given, as true. There is no quarrel with that. There is no questioning that or debating or criticizing it. And you have to expand on that point of view. You have to explain that particular point of view. Okay? Whatever that statement is. So if the statement is, sociology is a science of society, explain or elaborate or elucidate. What do? Which point of view will you explain or will you write? The positivist point of view only. Only. So you don't have to contest it, you don't have to give the anti-positivist contention. You have to assume, you have to take this statement as a given and expand on it. Are you with me? Only in the conclusion, as a passing comment, you can mention the other point of view in a single line. But the 90% body of your answer will be the positivist position. You have to explain or elaborate on that statement. Elucidate means what? To make lucid. Lucid means clear. To make clear. So it means the same thing. That you expand on it, elaborate it, or make clear the statement. Or you justify the statement. Again the same thing. So these are one kind of, or one category of questions that you can be asked. So bulk of the answer will be the perspective which is contained in that statement. Are you with me? So if there is a statement, religion or God is society divinized, elaborate. What do you have to do? Who are you then by writing the answer? You are Durkheim. And it is Durkheim's perspective you have to expand upon. Clear? In conclusion, you may give one-liner, however, blah blah. Okay? Another kind of word you can have is one of these types. Discuss, analyze, evaluate, examine, or comment. Here what is the expectant? Now if the question is sociology is the science of society, analyze or discuss. Is it the same as sociology is the science of society, elaborate? Very different. Please appreciate. Okay? Here you have to give both sides of the coin or different perspectives on the issue. So in this kind of a question, sociology is the science of society, examine. You will mention both the positivist and the anti-positivist perspective, giving almost equal weightage and space in your answer to both of them. Okay? Sometimes, friends, this word is appended to, critically examine, critically evaluate. Here, the content will not be too much different from the second type, except that perhaps you need to be more critical in the sense which perspective will you mention more. Sociology is the science of society, critically evaluate. a slight greater emphasis perhaps on the anti-positivist perspective. Are you with me? So you have to be somewhat more critical of that statement. I'm saying when this word, a word like analyze, evaluate, it is preceded by the word critically. Critically evaluate whether sociology is a science of society. Okay. Then you have to mention again both the positivist and anti-positivist perspectives with a slight greater emphasis on the anti-positivist or the opposing kind of a viewpoint. Huh? Another kind of word you can have is to compare or contrast. When you say compare or contrast, the word contrast, what it means? You have to bring out the differences between the two concepts. Say if I say you contrast pre-modern society with modern society. So you have to bring out the differences between the two. Okay? Highlight how the two are opposed to each other or different from each other. Is the word compare the same in meaning as contrast? How is it different? In comparison, you will be mentioning both the differences as well as the similarities. Both the differences and the similarities. In contrast, you have to simply draw out the differences. In a quick question on compare, you have to draw out both similarities and differences and similarities. Okay? Sometimes the word illustrate is used, or give illustrations, illustrate. What do you mean by illustrating? You kind of substantiate with examples. You pepper your answer with examples. That is what you would mean by illustrate. All right? Now these are some of the basics. You've now understood hopefully the structure of the paper and the meaning of some key terms. Now what all is required to score decent marks in the examination? What all we need to score decent marks in the examination? First and foremost, friends, very importantly, that whatever you are writing should be relevant. It should be highly relevant. Relevant meaning, what do you write? That which you know or that which the question is asking? It has to be relevant to the question asked. Please write what is being asked about. Frequently what happens, I was reading some answers today itself before the class. So what some of us have that tendency, it is always easier or more convenient to do. You know, you write what you know, or in the structure that you have prepared the topic. But if the language of the question is slightly different, your answer will have to be presented or molded in such a way that it appears you are addressing what has been asked. Very, very important, friends. So if they are asking you about Trivandrum, you don't talk about Timbuktu because you are familiar with the place. Are you with me? Please ensure, and a lot of times, like some of the answers I saw today also, what was written in the answer, that was correct statements, but they were completely irrelevant to the question asked. So you get how much? 0 on that content. Please appreciate. If it is irrelevant, even if it is correct. Which question was that? I don't recollect that I had seen today. Perhaps it was one of the questions on emergence of sociology. Okay, in the first assignment. And in the answer, one of you had mentioned 3-4 definitions of sociology, where one would have sufficed, because that is what you know. And all those definitions, they were scholarly definitions by these big shots, Comte, etc. And they were correct, but they were completely irrelevant, because that is not what is being asked. So if it is, you will get 0 for that content if it is correct but not relevant to what is being asked. So please ensure whatever you write is relevant. Extremely, extremely important, and it is not obvious or it doesn't come naturally. And please write this down. You must attempt all questions. All means how many? Out of 19? 19 questions have to be attempted. Make it your primary objective while preparation. If due to lack of practice, if due to less speed, you are leaving out even 2 to 3 questions in every paper in UPSC, your chances of selection stand drastically reduced. Drastically. If you ask me, and many of you do, what is common amongst those who clear the exam? One thing which is common, and it sounds very, pedestrian, very ordinary, is that they complete the full paper. At best, out of 4 general studies papers and the 2 optional papers, of course, the essay paper, you have to write only 2, there's no time pressure that way, right? So out of 1750 marks, at best, if you are leaving 10-20 marks, that is okay. But if you are leaving 20-30 marks in every paper, your chances of selection stand significantly curtailed. Okay? Some questions you will not know, either in GS or optional, but you have choice, a very important choice in the optional, right? That you have to exercise judiciously. So out of these 6 papers or 7 papers, 1750 marks, at best you can afford to leave 20-25 marks, not more. So you can't afford to leave, say, 20-30 marks in sociology alone, or any one paper of sociology alone. Are you with me? And this will require very good speed and proper time management. In your optional papers, friends, you have choice. Out of 8 questions, you have to attempt 5, meaning there are 9 questions given in the paper out of 28, total 28, out of which 9 you do not have to attempt. So which questions you are attempting and which you are not attempting will play an important role in the kind of marks you secure. Let me give you 2 different types of questions and tell me which one will you opt for. One question is, let me put it this way, very ordinary. It is a standard run-on-the-mill question. It has been asked several times in the past. You know it or know the answer to it, but so do all others. There is not much innovation or newness that you can bring to that question. There are no, say, current dimensions you can add to the question. Say it is about some standard question, how did modernization of Europe contribute to emergence of sociology? Or how did French and Industrial Revolution contribute to emergence of sociology? One is this kind of a question. Then there is another question which is, not so predictable or typical. It is somewhat more challenging. You have some idea about the concepts that you can use there. You expect that there will be far fewer people who would be attempting that kind of a question. So you think that you can possibly, distinguish your answer sheet from those of others. You can bring some new elements, you can link it to current affairs and something like that. So you can provide somewhat different, richer content for that question than your peers. Which of the two questions will you select? First or second? Those who will select the first question, please raise your hands. Those who will put your hands down. Those of you who will select the second question, please raise your hands. Please put your hands down. My sincere advice will be to go for the first type of question. Okay? Do not go for the more challenging or those which in the hope that you can bring in something new. When you are adding something new, there is a good chance that new can be wrong. It is untested. Don't talk, yeah. So you are taking a risk if you are attempting a question for which you are not very thoroughly prepared. Please appreciate. A standard, typical, quote-unquote, boring question is far more preferable if you have ready-made sociological content, knowledge for that, than one which is more challenging, and it is immaterial whether 10 or 20 or 20,000 people are attempting that question. Okay? So the more predictable, the more ready-made the answer, the better it is to score higher. The examiner doesn't know you as a person. He doesn't even know your gender. He is not gauging your personality as a whole. यार ये बंदा या बंदी बड़े सही है, देखो इसने मुश्किल वाला किया, ठीक है? He is just evaluating that particular answer for 10 marks or 20 marks, whatever is the allocated marks. So he is not gauging or forming an opinion about you. That I have to stand out. No, you don't. Many students ask me every year, so how do I distinguish my answer from others? How do I stand out of the crowd? Everybody is reading from the same books. Everybody is going to the same teachers. Everybody has the same content. Please, I am very, in all earnestness, I am telling you, this quest to stand out of the crowd is a misplaced one. You don't need to, that's a, wrong way of thinking, a wrong kind of an approach to this examination. Your objective here, we are not here to be Shah Rukh Khans. Please appreciate. We are here to be nameless and faceless bureaucrats. You do not need literally outstanding content to this thing. You need some basics. You need to complete the paper. You need, should I say, above average content and sociological in character. It should not look like GS type answers in your optional. How you do that, we'll discuss. Your answers need to be relevant. And you need proper time management. If you meet these basic demands, there is a very good chance that you will move to the next stage of the exam. I hope I am able to reach out, because this is an important thing here. Mind block that many of the students have. Regarding word limit, please write down word limit wherever specified must be adhered to. Must be adhered to. In the question paper, the trend is they specify a word limit for question numbers 1 and 5. In 1 and 5, they say that attempt the following, write a short note on the following from a sociological perspective within about 150 words, 150. So every 10 markers in those 5 sets, you have to do each of those 10 markers for 150 words. Okay? Now, can that 150 be 155 or 160 or 140, 130? That is an important question. Nobody is sitting there counting your words. But based on experience, one does get an idea of how much words does one side of a page contain, depending on the handwriting of the student. A typical kind of a expression would say involve 8 words per line and about 10 lines a page, or about 80 odd words. And 2 pages, about 160 words can fit in for a regular handwriting. And this would of course vary. Some students who write fewer words per line, khulla, there may have like 5 to 6 words, and then accordingly, some write more, 10 to 12 words per line, and accordingly. Okay? So the examiner can get a rough idea that your 150 words are within how much this thing, based on your handwriting. You need to undertake this task during the preparation period, which is now. While practicing, you write on UPSC type sheets, the question come answer booklet type sheets, which have columns on left and right, and you write in the space provided. So the weekly assignment sheet, if you've downloaded, you can use that as a template. And then you count. Pick up your last week's sheet or the next week's sheet, and you literally count that you count 3 lines, the number of words, you divide by 3, you get a typical average count that in my per line I write these many words. And then you count how much you write in a page, based on your natural writing style. Okay? Then the 10 marker, you have to write within 150 words. Before the class started, I saw a student's copy, she had written 400 words for the 10 marker question. That may be so, and we find it very difficult to compress our content. We know so much, we feel everything is important, so we write. With practice, you should be able to also distinguish what to write where. And there was some American president, I think Disraeli or somebody, a British prime minister, who said, who was writing to his daughter, and he said very interestingly that I am writing to you a long letter because I do not have the time to write a short letter. In other words, it always is more difficult to express yourself in fewer words and succinctly. Saying the relevant things in fewer words. And that comes with practice. With practice, you should be able to, and more knowledge, you should be able to distinguish, what is the exact demand of the question, which knowledge is essential to be incorporated and which is somewhat superficial or can be this thing. Please appreciate there will be many topics as we go ahead, where you will have far more content than what is required. So, learn to or understand that you do not need to write everything that you know on a topic in the answer. You can be and should be choosy in what all you are incorporating. You may get a 10 marker question on the problems faced by women in Indian society or patriarchy. Short note on patriarchy. Once you are done with the course in paper 1 and paper 2, you will have so much content you can possibly write a book or at least an essay of 1500 words on patriarchy. So you will need to be selective on what all dimensions to include and which to leave out. To what depth you mention something. Should you give an overview or talk about few things in great detail. But word limit is sacrosanct, it must be adhered to. Okay? You also should get a rough idea how much you are writing and attempt a 10 marker for about 150 words. Now this 150 words word limit, for a 20 marker, you consider correspondingly about 270, 280 to 300 words you have to write. In question 1 and 5, the word limit is explicit. In the others, it is implicit. Implicit in the sense, if you do end up writing, say, other questions more than the 150 words for other 10 markers, you will be left with lesser time and you will not be able to attempt or do full justice to the other questions. So all questions, therefore, you have to attempt in a word limit of about 150 words for 10 markers and about 280 to 300 words for a 20 marker. Okay. Another thing that comes up with this, say my handwriting is very tight, for lack of a better word. I'm writing things very closely, so my 150 words get completed in about sawa page, 1.25 pages. Okay, and you get two pages. So what do? Do I write 200 words to fill the pages, or do I leave the space blank? Neither is preferable. It is preferable that you slightly modify your writing style, write a little khulla. What's khulla? With space between lines, so that you cover at least 1.7 page. Are you with me? So that is on that. Word limit must be adhered to. Another thing, please note, sometimes you get questions which have two parts. In these such kind single questions, say 5A or not 5A, 6A. Okay? 20 marker questions frequently you get which have two parts. Please write down. In questions which have two parts, or they are asking you for two things basically. Okay? In questions with two parts, ensure that each part is addressed sufficiently and separately. Ensure that each part is addressed sufficiently and separately. For example, okay, let us take an example. If you get a question number 6A, okay, what is totemism? Question mark, and continuing, what are the functions of religion according to Durkheim? Okay, here you have two parts. What is totemism and what are the functions of religion according to Durkheim? In such kind of a question, now we don't know, and this question is for say 20 marks. Now we don't know internally what is the division of marks. Whether totemism is for 1 mark or 10 marks or whatever. We don't know that. But what do? You make an educated assessment. So what is your gut feel, should I say? What would be the kind of marks division or space division accordingly for the two portions? Sorry? Raise your hand and speak.
20%, 80%.
Yes? 8 and 12. That sounds about reasonable. Okay? But that's not very sacrosanct, frankly, because we don't know. You would, somebody who thinks it would be 6 and 14 will also be equally this thing. But point is, you don't write one line only for totemism. You give it reasonable space. Okay? And it should be addressed, each part should be addressed sufficiently, meaning depending on the seeming importance of the topic, and separately. One way of answering this question is you begin overall, and then you kind of, you mention somewhere in the middle, you talk about the functions of religion, somewhere in the middle you explain what is totemism. Don't do that. Don't give a khichdi answer. a mishmash kind of a answer. Each part should be visibly to the examiner, it should be demonstrated that you have answered each of these parts separately. So maybe in such a question you can begin with Durkheim's definition of religion. Durkheim in his book, Elementary Forms of Religious Life, defines religion as blah. That's your introduction. And then you give a heading, subheading, totemism. And then you explain in 2 paragraphs about what is totemism. And then you give a subheading, what was the other part? Functions of religion. Are you with me? And then, so the examiner clearly knows now that you have addressed each of these parts and done reasonable seeming justice to each of them. Not that you are talking about functions of religion, beech mein you have somewhere mentioned totemism. It's not the examiner's task to find relevant content in your answer. It is your task to present it to him on a platter, literally. Are you with me? The basics. How should the answer be structured? Let us appreciate. We all know this from nursery or earlier. There should be an intro, body, conclusion. Wonderful. The hard part is what do we write in the intro, in the conclusion, and how to divide the answer into paragraphs. Let us try to appreciate. In the introduction, friends, now let me also share with you what is a poor kind of an introduction or conclusion. Frequently, many of us find it difficult to distinguish between the two. They, in their minds, they are mixed up. That's the same thing. You kind of write a summary or whatever of the whole thing in the introduction and also in the conclusion. And for many students, what they say in the introduction and the conclusion is same, and it is also same as what is asked in the question. You just write hence, in the conclusion. Hence, French and Industrial Revolution played a very important role in the emergence of sociology. That's a poor kind of a introduction and conclusion. First things, when you are introducing, you are literally opening up your answer to the reader, to the examiner in this case. So, also appreciate what it should not be. Before I come to what it should not be is giving a background, a detailed background info about the thing. You have to literally come to the point. Literally. Now, for example, some students do end up talking about, say, Durkheim, if there's a question on his views on religion, Durkheim was a French scholar in the 19th century who contributed immensely to the establishment of the discipline of sociology. Who asked you? This kind of bhumika bandhna jisko kehte hain, this kind of, laying down a kind of opening up to this thing broadly, this works in the university exam system, where you have to write far more many pages. You have to, literally bharne panne there. You have to fill pages, so you write whatever you know about the guy and their grandmother. Okay? You don't do that in UPSC. So you don't do that kind of an introduction. A very safe, one thing about the introduction, it should, within the first 2 paragraphs, okay, you should be clearly talking about what is asked in the question. If not in the first paragraph, then definitely in the second. Okay? Say, explain Durkheim's theory of religion and what is its relevance in contemporary society. Okay? Then you can, now a very safe way of beginning the introduction of most answers, most more than 90%, is with a definition of the key terms. That does not require too much application of mind also, very frankly. So you are not struggling with words or phrases or sentences. And there is very little one can go wrong with definitions. Okay? A very safe, standard way of beginning, a good beginning to an answer is you begin with a definition, preferably a scholarly definition. A scholarly definition, if you have. So you don't say religion is a unified system of beliefs and practices, blah blah. You say religion according to Durkheim is a blah blah. It adds weight. Scholars' names add weight to they make your answers that much more marks fetching. In case the question involves two things, say write a short note on anomie and alienation. Okay, alienation is a Marxist concept, we'll discuss. Anomie we discussed under Durkheim. They have asked this kind of a question comparing, two things. Your introduction cannot be only the definition of one of them. Then it seems incomplete. Are you with me? You don't say anomie according to Durkheim is normlessness. Bhaiya, what about alienation? Who will talk about it? Don't think, no, I will talk later. You will, but in the introduction you need to touch upon all the aspects of the question. Clear? So one very standard, typical this thing is, say the question is, how did modernization of Europe lead to emergence of sociology? Many of you may begin such an answer by explaining what is modernization, which is perfectly all right in the introduction. That modernization is a social process, blah blah. In that introduction, after that definition, also write, connecting it to the emergence of sociology. That modernization of Europe created the socio-political conditions and the intellectual climate which gave rise to the discipline of sociology. Later on you explain. Okay? The question is not what is modernization of Europe. It is how did modernization of Europe contribute to the emergence of sociology. Are you with me? That is on the introduction part. Then you come to body. How should the body be? Like bhai? Salman bhai? No. How is the body? Divided into parts or paragraphs, right? When do you begin a new paragraph? After how many lines? 5? 3? Yes. There is no set criteria that you begin a new para after 4 lines or 7 lines or 5 lines. You begin a para based on the idea or the argument that you're making. Every para should contain a particular idea or set of related ideas, arguments. And the next para should then be talking about another kind of argument or, point that you are trying to make. Are you with me? Whether it is after 4 lines or 7 lines. Yes, it should not be 2, it should not be like, 80% of your page in one para, because that of course makes it unreadable. While writing different paragraphs, it does help if you use some connecting words. Connecting words. Like, my favorite is however. So you said something, then you want to say something quite the contrary. You say however. Anti-positivists say this. Positivists say this, then however. Now if you have to make a point in continuation of the previous para, you use a connecting word like also this. That kind of gives your answer a better flow. It makes it more readable. Are you with me? You can also use bigger connecting words like on the other hand, but then they consume unnecessary kind of shorter ones like but, so, also, they are like less, these are all only connecting words. So if you have a lot of content, you won't want to use bigger this thing, right? Therefore, and so on. In conclusion, that makes your answer, that gives some structure and flow to your answer. Then you come to what most of the students find the most difficult part of an answer, the conclusion. Avoid those kind of conclusions, hence. Okay. Please appreciate conclusion is a very important part of the answer. Why? It is after reading the conclusion that the examiner is giving you what you are here for, which is marks. Not Carl, M-A-R-K-S. Okay. He is awarding you marks after reading the conclusion. So he is making up his final mind regarding what is the worth of your answer vis-a-vis the question after reading the conclusion. Every answer must have a conclusion. Frequently students ask, sir, sab mein likhna zaruri hai, even 10 markers, or, give a conclusion in every answer. Okay? Secondly, preferably the conclusion should be brief. It should be brief. 2-3 liner about. Okay? Not like, 6 lines. If you have like your last para this big, then it's possibly an argument in itself, rather than a concluding kind of this thing. It has to be a closing line, Thirdly, conclusion should not be a repetition of what has already been stated. It should not be a repetition. It should not be a restatement of the question or the introduction or anything that has been stated in the body of the answer. Please appreciate, you must try to offer examiner something new, some new content in the conclusion. Depending on the language of the question, you can have different types of conclusions. There are different ways you can conclude an answer. If the question, I'll give you some different, ideas. Okay. One way of concluding an answer. If a question is on about, elaborate or explain, those kinds, the first kinds we discussed, where you have to simply expand upon the statement. In the conclusion, you can write a brief criticism. A brief criticism that would add something new to the answer. So you have explained Durkheim's views on religion. In conclusion, right? However, Marxist scholars contend that Durkheim's theory of religion ignores conflict and oppression. Khatam. If the question, on the other hand, is about evaluate, analyze, or critically evaluate, critically analyze, something like that, where you have already stated both points of view in the main body, then in the conclusion, what do? You can take a middle path kind of an approach. So critically analyze whether the scientific method can be used in sociology. In the body, you have mentioned the positivist position and the anti-positivist. In conclusion, what do you say? Today, the scientific method continues to be used in sociology, but not solely. Its use is supplemented by the use of various non-scientific methods as well. Khatam baat. Or sociology, contemporary sociology uses an eclectic mix of methods, including both scientific and several non-scientific methods. Are you with me? हमने दोनों तरफ की बात रख ली. There are several scholars, another type of conclusion. There are several scholars you will be reading about. Say Marx we will read, Durkheim we have read, and so on. Even in paper 2. Many of these scholars have written very long back. Right? Like Marx wrote in the 19th century, Durkheim wrote early 20th or 19th century. Yeah? In the conclusion, you can talk about the contemporary relevance of their whatever idea you're writing. Say if the question is, write a short note on alienation. It's a Marxist concept, we'll study. So in the answer, you'll be talking about alienation, what it is, what are the aspects and all, why and all. In the conclusion, you can say, now while talking about contemporary relevance, you can take either position. One is, the situation has greatly changed today, so the concept is outdated. Another, perhaps a more preferable one generally would be that despite being elucidated long back, the concept still holds relevance, such as this guy has used it in a modified form like that. Are you with me? So you talk about the contemporary relevance of that idea or that writing. Another way of concluding an answer, particularly useful in paper 1, is that you can bring in an Indian dimension. See, paper 1 theories, concepts, they were all by Western scholars in a Western context. So you can bring in a new dimension by talking about, see, also in India, this is what is happening or this is how it is relevant. But it should make sense. In the sense, if the question is emergence of sociology, modernization of Europe, you don't bring an Indian dimension, right? Because it was a historical thing, the emergence of sociology in Europe only. But if the question is on, say, religious revivalism, there very well bring in an Indian dimension. Or secularization, decline of religion. Say in India also see this or that. Okay? Another way of concluding an answer, particularly useful in paper 2, sometimes also in paper 1, but particularly in paper 2. When you are discussing some social, areas of concern, then you offer kind of solutions or what can be done, GS type approach, which you also use in GS, way forward, what you call your favorite phrase, way forward. What needs to be done or can be done, or even what steps have been taken, some schemes, etc. So these are some of the ways one can conclude an answer. Okay? Bear with me so that we can complete this thing. The next thing we discuss is how to make your answers sociological. How to make your answers sociological. See, I don't know why, but UPSC does it in question number 1 and 5. They write, answer the following or write a short note on the following from a sociological perspective. So you have to write them from a sociological perspective. But what about the other questions? Those also you have to write from a sociological perspective since it is a sociology paper. Okay? So, but they have made it explicit in question 1 and 5, but all questions in sociology have to be attempted. You have to write a sociological answer. How do you do that? Now, and this problem, I'm saying why is it a problem? It is particularly problematic in paper 2, where we have a lot of personal familiarity with the society we are commenting upon, where many of the topics are same as in general studies papers. So you can get a question on the problems of women or tribal development or communalism, secularism, even in your GS questions, GS papers. How do you distinguish your sociology, your answer in sociology paper on the same issue from what you are writing in GS? And you have to write different. It should not be same. If it is same, it will fetch you much lesser marks. How do you write this sociological answer? There are several ways. One is that you quote sociologists. Quote doesn't mean verbatim, you have to quote them word by word, but you express their ideas. So you write, if you are writing about the problems of women, according to, name a Kamala Bhasin or a Karen Armstrong or various other feminist scholars will be quoting. This is the issue, right? The same thing said by a scholar is far more marks fetching than if it is your viewpoint. It should not come across as your viewpoint. You say it is so and so's view. Okay? You can also mention not just sociologists but other social scientists like political scientists, economists, historians, okay? Scholars in general. But yes, in our discussions, we will be primarily getting acquainted with sociologists. Also maybe some political scientists and all. In some questions, you may confront an issue you do not have scholarly viewpoints. Particularly current affairs type questions if you get. Okay? You do not have scholarly content or scholars' names with a particular issue. What do? Firstly, try that doesn't happen. So for all the given syllabus topics, I'll be doing it in class. Don't talk, yeah. What will it take? Please. For all the syllabus topics, please ensure that you have sociological scholarly content. In fact, you make a list of scholars associated with every topic. Emergence, these are the names I have. Positivism, these are the names. Anti-positivism, these are the names. Okay, religious revivalism, these are the names. Secularization, these are the names. Okay? So firstly, try to have sociologists in your kitty, and many of them. Still, if a situation arises, and it can, that you don't for certain topics, then what do? You use sociological theories and perspectives. Some sociological theories have very wide application, friends. Very wide. Please bring, you kind of break down a theory to its simplest so that you can apply it widely. Functional theory, very wide application. Can be applied in nearly every situation, context or question. If you know what it at its simplest means. Marxist theory. We will be studying these as we proceed, but Marxist theory again has very wide application. Almost universal, can be applied to understand any kind of or answer any kind of question. Feminist theory. Very wide application. Okay? These three particularly. Then in paper 2 we discuss the perspective of Dalit sociologists or subaltern theorists and environmental sociologists and so on. How do you apply widely? You've discussed one perspective till now, functionalism. What is functional theory? If you have to explain it to a 5-year-old, tell me this way. Your cousin or brother in 5th class, you have to explain what is functionalism. How will you do it? You give positive things. You look at the positives simply. Or in GS also you will be writing advantages. Here you can write. So there was a question a few years back on demonetization. People had prepared it for GS but not in sociology. There was a question on demonetization in sociology. Okay, so how do you attempt? According to functional sociologists, demonetization has led to the following or performed the following functions. And you list out the positives, the argument of the government that this was the, it will lead to digitization, curbing black money and so on. These are what? The functions. Are you with me? Then you can apply the feminist Marxist perspective. Marxist perspective says what? Broadly, I am telling you very briefly, the rich are benefiting from whatever there is, the poor are suffering. And the rich are sucking the blood, the sweat and toil, they are cornering the, whatever benefits accrue from the hard work and toil of the masses. Very crudely, I'm telling you the Marxist perspective. And all the existing arrangements, whether it is governments, religion, family, everything, serves whose interests? Those of the rich. Okay? So, can you analyze demonetization from this perspective? Whom did it benefit? The rich. And the poor were at the... So, according to Marxist sociologists, the policy of demonetization was taken by the Indian state to promote the class interests of the bourgeois or of the capitalists. Something like that. Feminist perspective. What do they say? Unka ek hi rona hai. How women are at the receiving end of various social arrangements. Right? Women are disadvantaged. Women are kind of discriminated against. And women are at the receiving end of whatever is happening or even going to happen possibly. So they highlight how women are particularly disadvantaged. And that you can do in almost any. So demonetization, was it particularly harsh on women?
Yes.
Of course. You highlight how, for instance, so you write, according to feminist sociologists, the household savings of housewives, they are in what form? Cash. They got wiped out. Women are less literate, so they, bulk of women's employment is in the informal labor force. And the informal sector was particularly hit by the policy of demonetization. Okay? So this is how you can apply. So you apply sociological theories and perspectives. Another way is you identify interlinkages between the social institutions. That's how you make an answer sociological. Identify the interlinkages between social institutions. See, we see different social institutions as isolated, interconnected and interdependent. So any issue you are discussing, try to look at it from multiple dimensions. How is it related to family, to religion, to caste in Indian context, to the economy, the political system? Say you are writing on violence against women, okay, or domestic violence. You don't write only about the family dimension of it. So domestic violence is linked to, or violence against women in general, is linked to family arrangement. It is also linked to the law. How law is being not properly implemented. You do have laws against domestic violence, but improper application. It is also has a caste dimension. So when there are caste wars or caste violence, women of the lower caste are subjected to sexual harassment, humiliation. Yes or no? By men of the upper caste. Does religion sanction or condone, justify somehow violence against women? You investigate that. Are you with me? That is how you make your answer sociological. We fancy ourselves, friends, as a scientific discipline. Yes or no? So, you use data and statistics in your answers while making a point. That makes your answer that much sociological. For instance, writing on domestic violence, you don't start ranting or raging like a feminist. You say that according to the NFHS 5, 30% of female respondents had experienced spousal violence. Or according to the United Nations, the pandemic was accompanied by a shadow pandemic. And 1 in every 3 women in the world have experienced violence. That adds weight to your argument and makes it that much more sociological. Another way to make your answer sociological is you use questions later. You use sociological jargon and concepts. Use the sociological lingo, friends, the bhasha. And use it liberally. Use concepts and jargon, words you pick up in paper 1, in paper 2. Freely. Paper 2 to 1 will be less useful, practically. But 1 to 2 is very doable. Again, to do that, break down things to their simplest. What is anomy? Simpler. You have to tell it to a 5th standard student. Then you'll have to explain to him what is norms. Confusion. It is confusion in society. If you understand it like that, you can apply it in a variety of situations. Don't think I will write about anomy only when there is a question on Durkheim or Merton, another scholar who uses that concept. If you're writing an answer on pandemic से क्या हुआ? Anomy हो गई. Wherever you see confusion and chaos, why were the formulas being opposed? जी anomy हो गई थी. Are you with me? Or you have these Agnipath protests. Anomy. Wherever the existing things, anything you which sees chaos and protest, you write. Use the concept of anomy. That will make your answer sociological. And you'll have to go with that, with a free mind for that. Functions are what? Advantages. Don't write only when you're writing paper 1 functionalists. Even in paper 2, write liberally. According to functional sociologists. This and that has so many manifest and latent functions. Bhasha use karo. Instead of writing society anywhere, use the term social system. It means exactly the same. Sounds more academic. Not everywhere, but most. Particularly when you're writing the functional perspective or the systems perspective. You can analyze the society as a system. We'll be discussing what social system is later. Then you can apply it very widely. Okay? Use Marxist jargon similarly. Proletariat, bourgeois, false class consciousness, and so on. Ruling class ideology. You'll understand these things when we move ahead. But use the language of the discipline throughout your answers. Another thing, current affairs linkages. Current affairs, friends, 2 types of things are there regarding current affairs. One is when you have a direct question from the current affairs. For example, you've had the hijab controversy and you have write a short note from a sociological perspective on hijab or sociology of hijab. Okay. In such a question, you should try to bring in scholars. Scholars you will get in the institute booklet. We come out with a current affairs booklet after every prelims. So you take that, you go through that. And that will give you not just the issue you'll get from any regular booklet or newspaper also. The sociological analysis we try to incorporate. So when you read that, secondly, you use the things we discussed right now, using jargon, using perspectives and so on. Okay? If you don't have scholars. Thirdly, you can have certain, various other questions where they don't ask you about a particular sociological this thing. But there also you should try to bring a current dimension wherever possible. So if you're writing a question on patriarchy in general, or something about Indian Muslims in general, okay, say problems of the Muslim community, you've had such questions in the past. You mention the hijab controversy, or you make mention of the hijab. That will send a signal to the examiner, your knowledge is not purely bookish or theoretical. But you have, you can link the subject to the world around you. And that will make your marks, your answer sheet that much more marks fetching. Okay? Clear? So you pepper your answers with current developments, current affairs. We'll be doing that in the lectures and you pick it up. Regarding presentation, I need to wrap up by 5:30 because that's a stretch, right? Regarding presentation, first the eternal question. Points wise or para-wise. On that, what I would say is, there is no rigid guideline that I can give you, that all answers should be para form or points form or this or form. Overall, your answer sheet should reflect an eclectic mix of different ways of different presentation forms. In some questions you write para form, some you write point form. Which you will write para or point form? Firstly, in every answer, where you are writing point form also, the introduction and conclusion has to be in para or sentence form. Don't make that like, or don't begin your answer with a diagram or something. Intro and conclusion has to be in a sentence form, complete sentence. Okay, in all answers. The main body in the middle, you can have some points form or different styles of representation, tables, points, diagrams, etc. or paras. It is a matter of practicality, which form you use. For example, if there is a question where you have a lot of content but limited words, say 10 marker on patriarchy where you know a lot, which form can you present more information? Points form, because you write fewer words, and you don't write full sentences. So when you want to present a lot of information and you have a word limit to adhere to, you use points form more. But if there is a question where you have to write a 20 marker but you know little about the topic, then what do? Then you don't use points form, because it will become littler. Yeah, already little amount will become further less. So because in para form you can do a bit of bakar also, bluntly. Okay? Use diagrams. Some features or things can be better written in points form, like features. Okay, so you write 1, 2, 3, 4. Features of or characteristics of social facts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And wherever you are writing points form, instead of writing dot or star, write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That tells the examiner, okay, this guy has given 6 different dimensions or points. More impressive. But if you have only 2, 3, then you don't do 1 and 2 and star. Right? That looks kind of unappealing. Diagrams that you draw, they should be speaking diagrams. They should be standalone diagrams, and they should not be a repetition of what is there in the body already. So they should be adding on to the content in the answer. For example, if there is a question, you apply XYZ's theory. Like you get, say, apply Merton's theory of deviance to study this and that problem. They have not asked you the theory. So the theory you depict diagrammatically. Diagrams you pick from Sangwan or prepare some of your own. But that preparation has to be done now during the preparatory phase, not think afresh in the exam. Okay? Don't use shorthand like, WC or anything. It's not your notes. It's to be read by another person and should be amply clear what the terms mean. Okay? You don't give, another is table and flowcharts. Again, certain questions are more presentable in a tabular form. Like if there's a question on comparison, okay, that you do in a tabular form. Say mechanical solidarity, organic solidarity. But you draw a table only when you can write on the same thing on both the sides. Please appreciate. If you draw a table where you can't, sometimes they ask you a question, you know about both, but you can't compare them point by point. Then you don't draw it in a table. If you can draw it point by point comparison, then you draw a table. In that, isme heterogeneity, isme homogeneity, isme interdependence high, isme low. So there you are talking about the same thing on both sides. Okay? Flowcharts, diagrams, all that you use, but prepare beforehand. Should you be underlining? Yes, you can. But underlining is to be used very sparingly. Very, very sparingly. Matlab, don't underline half the page. A lot of you do. ये भी important है, ये भी है, ये भी है. it loses its meaning or effect. The purpose of underlining is to catch the eye of the examiner. So use it very, very selectively, only the key words or the essence of the idea in the whole of the paragraph. So the examiner knows at a glance, okay, this guy's talked about this. Okay? Also, it is quite advisable to use boxes in the sense, give subheadings in boxes. You can do that. Like what is secularization, and it discuss its application to current Indian society. So you say application to Indian society in a box as a subheading. Okay? You can also mention the scholar's name in all caps. That also catches the eye. How many scholars in an answer? If it's a generic question like say patriarchy, I would expect say 4 odd thinkers in a 10 marker. But it's not be just throwing in the thinkers. You have to develop an argument and substantiate it with thinkers. मैं नहीं कह रहा कमला भसीन ने कहा है. ठीक है? It's like that. But some questions you will have only one thinker. So if you write a short note on social facts, how many thinkers you have in your kitty? Only Durkheim, which is okay. Are you with me? But if it's about some social phenomena about which there are divergent views, then you need that diversity. Friends, finally, as far as I am concerned, all of this amounts to nothing if you don't practice. So, what do? The more practice you do, the better you get at it. And there is no way out. Karat karat abhyas to janmati hot sujan. Okay? Thank you.